Well, I think it's straightforward. First is that I've had the privilege and the honor of presiding over the affairs of Edo State for 8 years, and I ran 2 elections, um, covering 18 local government. Now I am only going to cover 6 local government. So that is 1/3 of what I have done before. And therefore the amount of work that needs to be done and the coverage is quite limited. The second is I really don't need to do the kind of campaign I've done in the past because people already know me, and the job we've done as governor speaks for us. Everywhere I go, people say, what are you going to tell us? They lived where we have worked, and those projects are our campaign message. They are not about what we do. It's about what I've done as a basis to trust that we'll do more. So it's a simple thing. As for the national one, it's not the first time I'll be involved in national campaign. I was national chairman the last time when we went on presidential campaign. So I'm familiar with the geopolitical issues of the country, and so I'm quite at home with the issues. As for managing time, that is the issue. After running several elections, we know what to do and where to do it. And above all, don't forget that our candidate, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is not also a stranger to politics. He has run elections under very, very difficult conditions. You recall when in one of the elections, a week to the elections, they changed the commissioner of police twice. They changed INEC rec 2-3 times. They changed all the EOs 24 hours to the election because the then president, Obasanjo, wanted to, by all means, take over Lagos. That was their language, take over, not win. And I said, well, just stop them from doing it by mobilizing the people to resist the rigging. So he's not a stranger to any department of election management. It's just that he should be his own best manager, his own best campaign manager. But all we are just doing is to remind people, because in the real world, memories can be short. The challenge of managing Nigeria is huge. But the window to know who is likely, who is most suitable, most better place to do it, is provided by looking at the past of the individual, even in science, in statistics. To extrapolate the future, you look at the past. So you heard me spoke a couple of hours ago, speaking to what I do know. And these are things that people can verify. We just need to remind them. And like everybody has said, most of the people who are considered to be serious candidates in this election, they are people who have been governors, just like Tinubu was a governor. And Atiku was elected the governor. He later became a vice president for 8 years. So they've all had 8 years experience on the executive branch. And so it's easy to make comparison. So this is good to me, in my view, the easiest election, because you are not marketing a stranger. You are not marketing an unknown quantity. Number 3, the other very important thing is that our candidate's comfort zone is the whole Nigeria. There is no part of the country where Tinubu has not visited. There is no part of the country where he has not supported people to run election, whether executive or legislature. And so he has a network of friends, associates, share political values. Now, sometimes we need to remind people, for example, that the current governor of Yobe State, he may not talk about it as often as I think he should. He was once, I think, vice chairman or so, assistant secretary, national secretary of the old ACN. Boss Mustafa was vice chairman of the old ACN. But this election is not about the old ACN. Just to say that Asiwaju has built institutions and bridges across all the divides, north, south, east, west. And of course, he can really identify people he has supported to grow and prosper in their various fields beyond EDGs of Lagos State. So it's a part of Nigeria, and again, that's what Nigeria needs at this point. Again, these are not issues that are difficult to explain. And sometimes the media appear to quote unnamed sources, and they prefer the more negative stories. What I've heard is that people are saying of the three leading candidates, or the three similarly leading candidates, who has better chances, having regard to who they are, the vast network, their comfort zones, and what they are known to stand for. Of all three, none of them can compete with Asiwaju. And if people say, oh, we need federal might, there must be PDP people who, after doing do or die politics in 2009, 2007, they produced a president who, may so rest in peace and may God bless him abundantly in heaven, said, look, this election was not clean, but he will do everything to try and clean it up. So, because rigging is all that they know, they can't think outside what they know. Now, that's why I needed to remind you that when you grow up in the kind of political environment in which Asiwaju has developed himself, under a very repressive federal might, and yet he retained Lagos, you couldn't have rigged with a commissioner of police that was imposed by somebody who was determined, quote, to take over. They did not use the word win, to take over Lagos. He said DC was withdrawn. He knows how to mobilize the people. And the people know him. Nigerians now are looking for a unifier. Everybody talks about it. I mean, watching your TV screens and reading newspapers, it appears beyond the issues of security, economy, and so on, people are genuinely concerned about what seems to be growing division. The emergence of what I call ethnic champions and even increasingly religious bigots. Of these three, who can better be entrusted with the unity of the country? Is it an Atiku Abubakar who went to Kaduna to say, if you are Yoruba, you are not good enough to be voted for? Not the person, just be Yoruba. I said, don't vote for Yoruba. Those were his words. And don't vote for Igbo. Those were his words. He didn't say don't vote for Peter because of any reason, but he's Igbo, so don't vote for him. Tinubu is Yoruba, don't vote for him. So, at a time like this, when everybody is talking about the need for national unity, etc., is it an Atiku who is preaching division that you want to vote for? Now, for my very good friend, and I always use the word good friend because he is. But just that the thing is not about friendship, it's about capacity. It's an open secret that he couldn't manage the politics of Anambra. He could not. He also suffered from what I call a rolling stone. Exactly the same words I used to describe His Excellency President Atiku, Vice President Atiku in 2019. Obi got elected on the platform of ABGA, and he was always wearing Ojuku's portrait to whip up the Ojuku sentiment without carrying the Ojuku spirit of doggedness and consistency. The Igbos believe in Ojuku because whether you like Ojuku or not, he believed in what he was doing. You don't have to agree with it, but he is convinced about what he was doing. Obi was not convinced about ABGA. But he knew he cannot on his own win election without using Ojuku's image. But once he was doing the second term and he was done, he now wanted to be president. And then APGA was no longer enough. He left APGA to join PDP and negotiated his way through to become the running mate to Atiku Abubakar. And now, if they say Obi means obedient, then not only did he disobey his own APGA, Nigeria disobeyed the ticket, and they lost flat. Now he came back, even this season, he wanted to run, and he did run on the platform of PDP. I think it's about a week or 2 weeks to the election. He ran his numbers. I saw that he had no chance of winning. And he potted, as they will say, has suddenly become a laborite. How can you be a laborite when your record has not paid salaries? His state university was closed for more than a year. State university closed by more than a year when federal university were running. And he was a sole administrator of Anambra State. He couldn't subject himself to the rules of the game, which recognizes the existence of a third tier of government, which is the local government. And these are not allegations from me. These are facts that you can verify, for which he has serious problem with the leadership of APGA. They may have found a quiet marriage of convenience now, but it's always about convenience, not conviction. And we need people of conviction. So when you, everything take it together, it is they. Now, if your captive zone is just a section of a segment of a country that you whip up those emotions and sentiment, ethnic, religion, etc., how will that take you far? The most popular politician in Nigeria recent history, who had the command and control and court followership in Nigeria, is no other than President Muhammadu Buhari. And I use the word court followership to make a decision between some emergency or temporary support. But he had these voters behind him in the northern part of Nigeria for 3 consecutive years over a period of 12 years. They remain convinced that he was the man to be president, and they stood by him. Not with money. He had no money. Everybody knows that. And yet, he could not be president of Nigeria until APC was formed. Now, this is the point I want to make. That no individual has the capacity. And none of them, neither Atiku nor Obi, can claim a fifth in terms of convinced supporters, convinced, consistent supporters. They don't have a fifth of Buhari. And yet Buhari couldn't win without an APC being formed. So why will you waste your vote? Vote is not a fashion that you can change in the morning, you change in the evening. You really want to make a statement. And above all, where is the capacity? As I said, he's a good friend. I invited him to commercial projects in Edo, and he honored me, and he came. But it's not about friendship, it's about capacity. Whoever can rule Nigeria is the one I support. And if you see Tinubu's manifesto, you will see the difference. And that is why I can publicly identify with him and even talk to my Labour colleague that they shouldn't make a mistake of allowing right-wing politicians to take over a party that was committed to left-wing policies. Right? Asiwaju in his manifesto talks about recreating the manufacturing sector. He talks about jobs, and he used the word decent jobs and well-paid jobs. It makes a difference between not just about jobs, but good jobs and well-paid jobs. That's the way you can fight and defeat poverty on a sustainable basis. And it speaks to special attention on education. Now, what is the other two candidates? What is their track record with regard to investment in education? Check it out. All that my dear friend was doing in Anambra was donating money to some churches and return school to them with 50 million naira. 50 million naira cannot build a good school. And I build schools in Edo. I know what it costs to build a standard school. So go to Anambra and do your investigation and come up with a photograph of a modern primary school, a modern secondary school, like the one I was doing in Edo, that can be credited to Obi's tenure. Now, the key issue today, most people talk about security, and rightly so. This country has to be secured before everything. If we are not secure, we can't get investment. If we are not secure, we can't even sleep well. If we are not secure, we can't go to work. So we don't need to overflog it. But watch, because when I said it last time, because he touched it at some point, they wanted to try and use the usual fake statistics and, to trivialize the serious matter. I simply ask a question. If you couldn't manage security in one state, you couldn't manage the politics of that state, you couldn't even unite the people of the state behind you. I'm proud to say I united the two people behind me, which explains why I won 18/18, all the local government. It never happened before. So I know what I'm talking about when you say united people. By their response, it shows whether they are united or you have succeeded in dividing them. Right? So what is Obi's track record? Truth is, Anambra became divided, which led to those political crises, impeachment, whether legitimate or illegitimate. The impeachment were, of course, wrong, I believe. But that they occur points to a deep political crisis. And if you can manage that state, and now I talk about the security issue, you go back and play the interview, which the debate in Obiano's second term, when Shehu of Channel Television asked him about his relationship with his predecessor, Peter Obi. So don't take it from me. Channels, play back your interview in which Shehu was at his best. And Obiano said, look, don't drag me into personality issue with Obi. All I can say is that I have spent, that is Obiano speaking. Obiano said he spent his first term in office, tried to restore law and order in Anambra, tried to restore security. The situation became so bad that Anambra people or Anambarians were afraid to come home. And he was troubled by that. So his first priority was to restore security to Anambra. Now, there are two implications for that. You can't restore what is already existing. If it's not broken, you don't mend it. So he inherited a state that was practically ungovernable, but he restored order. And what he wanted to do the second term was to now invest in infrastructure. Now, you also have an interview with Gigewe who said the man didn't invest in infrastructure. How do you run the economy without infrastructure? If you didn't invest in infrastructure in your state and you claim you were saving money, are you a CBN? Are you a Federal Reserve Bank? The business of states, federal government is to manage national reserves and deal with broad policy, monetary policies. States are supposed to be the real engines of growth, creating an enabling environment for businesses to locate in their various states. And the man claimed, without proof, that he was saving money. So it was just with thrift, saving in whose bank? And he reminds us how he was chairman of at least 2 banks. So if you were chairman of 2 banks, could that be the reason why saving was for you a priority, even in the face of needs, including robust investment in education? So I think if we look at all the issues, I'm clear that by the special grace of God, Nigerians will vote wisely. We will win. We don't need to rig. You know me. In Edo State, one of the things I'm proud of, regardless of what anybody wants to say, is that I dismantled PDP rigging machine. They could no longer arrogantly say, no, there is no vacancy in Osadebe Avenue. We still have those newspaper cutting. We still have those TV recording where the PDP leader used to boastfully say, there is no vacancy, because they have already written the result even before the election day. But I launched 1 man, 1 vote, 1 woman, 1 vote. That wasn't launched by PDP. And I invited political leaders across the country, incidentally, including Babangida, including Shoika, including Tinubu, including Bisi Akade, across party divides, that we can't go on rigging elections. The worst robbery is to rob people of their mandate. Because if you steal a mandate, you've stolen everything. So, Asiwaju doesn't need to steal anybody's money. He's not desperate. He's running an election for the first time. He could have run much earlier if he wanted to. He took his time supporting people to earn the right to be supported. Because see, there's a way in which, there is law of reciprocity. Asiwaju support people from various states, not rushing to put his name on the ballot. So, I don't know the facts you have that I don't have, but I want to speak to fact, not speculation. APC is committed, and I'm happy you quoted what President Buhari told you, the United Nations. And when President Buhari speaks on issues like that, in places like that, he is conscious that the international community, he has volunteered not only to ask for free and fair, but to also lecture African leaders to discard this notion of a life presidency, where they remove tenure or they keep manipulating tenure limitations in their constitution. And for me as a Nigerian, I was proud that they said that. And however, he is also the chairman of our campaign council. And we are trusting that those his court followership will also listen to him. Because he wants to leave the country in the hand of somebody who will even do it better. Build on the foundation he has laid. Whatever anybody wants to say, you can't say Buhari has not done anything. If it is only the Niger bridge, that is something. There are a couple of other things until this security alert. Most people were, attack. Nigerians were now used to traveling. I have friends who are senior advocates living in Kaduna. They just come by train to Abuja. More convenient, cheaper, and predictable. Well, large Nigerians took train. So we can go on and on and on.